Kicking off the list at number 10, Matthew Malloy. While we're eagerly awaiting the arrival of mutants into the MCU, there's quite a few mutants that I wouldn't want hanging out near Peter, Ned, or MJ, like Matthew Malloy for example. See, Matthew was a regular Joe living in Charleston, South Carolina, but all of a sudden Earth gets hit with a Skrull invasion. Gotta love Mondays in the Marvel Universe. Sick. Things escalate when his wife Jules is vaporized by a blast from said Skrull ship, and his home was also just toast. Just a complete tragedy from the start. Now, one depressing, dark, lonely year later, he sees his late wife's sister, and they finally catch up. And it's hard for Matthew, of course, to talk about this stuff. This is still just a year ago, so it's all very fresh. So he's feeling it, and that's when his mutant powers decided to manifest. He erupted with energy, sadly also ending the life of Jules' sister. Not looking good so far. And then while he's standing there in shock, Maria Hill's hologram shows up out of a drone, and she's like, "Are you okay? Are you a mutant? What are your powers? What's going on? Do you have Geico?" He's a little stressed out on what's happening, so he freaks out a little more. So she sends in a strike team, and this just caused him to release even more energy and take even more lives. S.H.I.E.L.D. ended up sending in an airstrike, and that ended the lives of Cyclops, Magic, and Matthew, but those powers were better than we thought, because Matthew came back to life. Immortality for the win. Next, he teleported to the Jean Grey school, where he then took the life of Emma Frost. Now, Tempest at this point decided the only way to take care of this beyond Omega level threat was to go back in time and make sure his parents never meet. Then we can avoid having this supervillain from exploding over and over again. There's a link there, page 10. Mutants are cool and all, but this is evidence of how a regular guy can be riddled with tragedy in the Marvel Universe. Imagine if Zemo got these powers, Civil War would be over in like 22 minutes.
Number 9. Vulcan. Vulcan has a great darkness that seems to be permanently lurking within him, which generally leads to him going berserk when it comes to how he approaches attacking, or more specifically, decimating, usually, his enemies. Vulcan is known as Gabriel Summers, the youngest Summers brother of the three. In the past, he has also been known as the Emperor of the warrior race known as the Shi'ar, and is an Omega level mutant. When it comes to energy manipulation and generation, he's probably the most powerful of the three brothers, just based on his sheer power levels alone. Vulcan even went toe to toe with one of the most powerful characters in Marvel, Adam Warlock, who at the time had joined up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and yeah, Vulcan kicked his butt pretty effortlessly, looking super evil all the while, by the way. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, just a quick reminder, if you love lists like this and you want to see us pit, I don't know, maybe even more Marvel villains against Darkseid, although yeah, Darkseid is pretty powerful. Please be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up and commenting below. Number 8. Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom definitely has the prowess to defeat Darkseid. While he might not be powerful enough initially to defeat Darkseid, Doom is well known for his determination and for going to great lengths to achieve things that most would tell him were basically not possible. He's kind of like the person that also comes in the Marvel Universe to solve problems that seem otherwise unsolvable, even when we have like all of the geniuses on it. He has masterful plans, and I believe that if Doom had to go up against Darkseid, he would find the power that he needed to defeat Darkseid. We've seen him take power from plenty of insanely powerful people in comics and video games before, like Kilgrave, Odin, the Beyonders, Scarlet Witch, and Molecule Man. I'm just saying, people are definitely going to be like, yeah, but Dr. Doom isn't already at that power level, and I'm going to be like, yeah, well, Dr. Doom's great, so he wins, that's it. It's all coming up Doom, baby. Number 7. Enchantress. Enchantress is vastly powerful when it comes to her magics. She's one of the most powerful magic users in all of Asgard and within the Marvel multiverse. And even though she's a magic user, which are typically known for being pretty squishy in general, she is surprisingly strong because she's also Asgardian. Enchantress has been shown to seduce a number of men with her charms and beauty, except for those with the strongest will. She is trained with various Asgardian magicians and even was Karnilla's student at one point. She can conjure up magic strong enough to destroy a god, though weirdly not strong enough to destroy Vision. Android loophole, I guess. She's easily defeated other immensely powerful magic users, and I'm sure that if she and Darkseid faced off, she'd prove that Enchantress should never be underestimated in battle. Number 6. Genesis/Annihilation. Genesis is the wife of Apocalypse, and as such will be his stand-in for this list. While there are some who compare the all-powerful might of Darkseid and Apocalypse to one another, also, I mean, they look pretty similar just in terms of character design, there is a character even more powerful than Apocalypse who I believe, based on the comparison of DC and Marvel's characters, could pose an even greater threat to the new god. That, of course, is Genesis. We met Genesis and came to know her as a foe over the course of the Ten of Swords event during the Otherworld tournament. She was one of the chosen champions of Arakko who fought in that tournament. Genesis received a power-up as the avatar for the Elder God of Amenth, known at the time as Annihilation. But even without her mask and without that title, Genesis was still shown to be an Omega level mutant more powerful than her husband. So if we're comparing Darkseid to Apocalypse, I think Genesis is... I'm just saying. I think she might be more powerful. Number 5. GORR. It's all in the name for GORR. Darkseid is known as a new god, and GORR is the god butcher, so I think you can imagine how this might go down. GORR fights wielding the all-black Necrosword, a symbiote and weapon created by KNULL. GORR can use this weapon to devour his enemies from the inside out, basically. It's pretty gross. This kind of inside out attack with the all black has been shown before to be powerful enough for him to defeat even an immortal Asgardian hero like Thor, and fairly easily too. What's more, the all black that GORR wields is also powerful enough to slice through the sun and the moon as well. Now that is one sharp and deadly blade. When armed with the all black, GORR also becomes virtually immortal, as though he weren't resilient and strong enough on his own. Even if you kill him through the all black, he can basically return, making him indestructible and pretty much undefeatable. How can you defeat someone if you can't actually get rid of them, you know what I mean? I don't know. Number 4. Galactus. I mean, let's just talk about the sheer size of Galactus to begin with, and already we're making a pretty good case for him taking the fight, in my opinion. Galactus is the devourer of worlds, and Darkseid could be the inhibitor of a world that Galactus would end up destroying. Even when Galactus is hungry, his strength is pretty great. He has been shown as being able to engage in a fight with the Phoenix even while in such a state, which, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to win because Phoenix, but I also think that is immensely impressive given how powerful the Phoenix and Phoenix Force is in general. Number 3. KNULL. KNULL is shown as being one of the biggest bads currently in the Marvel Universe with the King in Black event, and he has proven time and time again just how hard it is to stop him. He's relentless, doesn't give up, doesn't back down, and is very hard to actually kill or injure. Like Darkseid, he also likes to raise worlds, but he has symbiotic dragons and is known for being one of the galaxy's oldest evils. KNULL is basically darkness incarnate, so while I believe that watching a fight between these two would be very exciting and interesting to read, in the end I would personally be betting on KNULL to come out victorious. Number 2. Dark Phoenix. Obviously, Dark Phoenix is one of the most powerful villains we've ever seen in the Marvel Universe, and as destroyed entire worlds and could reshape all of reality if they wanted to, especially when we're talking about the powerful marriage of the Phoenix Force and its often most desired perfect host, Jean Grey. When Jean goes dark, you definitely want to watch out. And even Darkseid should be shaken in his boots if that version of Phoenix and Jean comes a-knockin'. I mean, we should all be shaking in our boots, really. Number 1. The Beyonder. Initially, the Beyonder wasn't even from the Marvel multiverse that we have come to know, but another multiverse completely separate. In that multiverse, the Beyonder was everything, and everything was him, making him pretty much the god of that multiverse. A hole into our multiverse was created when Owen Reese experienced the accident that turned him into Molecule Man, and it was through this hole the Beyonder became aware of this Marvel multiverse, and basically decided ultimately to come on over and to mess with it. At least that was the initial backstory. Later on his story would be altered somewhat and we learned that there was actually an entire race of Beyonders, but either way the Beyonder remains one of the most powerful villains around at Marvel, especially in those older days, considering that he is beyond multiversal and can with ease, and even sometimes without even intention, destroy multiple realities and reshape multiverses. Who do you think would be able to take on Darkseid from the Marvel Universe? Number 10. BORSON. While the Serpent is not as powerful by himself like Darkseid, he doesn't usually come alone. During Fear itself, he recruited his own allies when he activated the Hammers of the Worthy, who found their own hosts, causing global chaos and destruction, and giving the villains and corrupted heroes who wielded those hammers immense power. BORSON is Thor's uncle, who was imprisoned by his own brother Odin, and craves power that he claims was rightfully his before he was locked away. Fear gives him strength, and while Darkseid might not be afraid of him, there are plenty people on Earth who could power him up with their fear were he to return. Inevitably, Thor did defeat the Serpent, but it cost him his life at the time, and all the heroes of Earth were still kinda needed to come together in the fight against all the fear that BORSON's return had unleashed on the world.
And at 9, NEKRON. The Blackest Night storyline is probably one of my favorite DC Comics events, with a whole slew of heroes being, for lack of a better term, resurrected using the powers of the Black Lantern rings. NEKRON is DC's embodiment of death in a sense, at least if you're not a speedster, and he wanted to eliminate all life in the universe, because like I said, that's what all great villains want, right? Like, what's the point of wiping out the universe? Like, what are you gonna do then? Do all villains just want to die? Like, at least Damien Dark had a plan on how to keep himself and his family alive. Why would someone want to destroy everything and everyone, including themselves, or leave like nowhere for them to actually rule over? It just makes no sense to me. Like, if there are no living people and they're all just Black Lanterns under your control, would you really feel like you're in charge? I mean, would you really be having fun? Part of the fun of being the villain is having people to kill or control or subject or whatever you want to do, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Either way, NEKRON got pretty damn close to seizing control of the universe since, you know, he raised heroes like Superman from the grave. If the White Lanterns didn't exist, he would have won, let's be honest. And at 8, Annihilus. Annihilus is an interdimensional insectoid conqueror and tyrant hailing from the Negative Zone, a pocket dimension located on Earth 616. When Annihilus discovered the opposing force, the Negative Zone's counterpart, the Power Cosmic, after years of long failed conquests, he finally had the power to fulfill his dreams. With an entity named Ravenous, who at the time wielded this power, he invaded the positive matter universe through a portal known as the Crunch. Many worlds and many heroes fell before his Annihilation Wave. The Annihilation Wave was Annihilus's interdimensional invading force. It was an incredibly powerful force which laid waste to galaxies, slaughtered numerous worlds, and captured or killed cosmic beings. So yeah. And Annihilus came close to accomplishing his goal as well, even taking several Galactus heads, just heads of multiple versions of Galactus. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful, but he came even closer to winning and destroying reality in the What If Annihilation story, which I hope we get to see a version of in the Disney Plus series since it takes place shortly after Civil War. And at 7, Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash in the season premiere of The Flash Season 3 may not have like obliterated the world, but he did end up destroying the world that we knew for the CW verse, and ended up changing the timeline so much that it even affected characters in other shows. In the Season 2 finale, Barry decides to go back in time to save his mother, similar to the Flashpoint storyline. However, this time Wally is the Flash and Barry isn't. However, he starts losing his speed and his memory of an old life, which he thinks is a bad thing. Like, bro, I would give anything to forget my trauma, are you joking? Sorry for me not understanding why you don't want to remember your parents dying, but okay. So he lets Reverse Flash go so that he can set the timeline back. However, unlike in the animated movie, Barry doesn't get stopped in the time stream. Instead, he waits until it's all played out and then boom, kills her after he was originally supposed to, creating a whole new timeline, somehow. Where Joe and Iris don't talk, Cisco's brother is dead, and John Diggle has a son named John Diggle Jr. instead of his daughter Sarah, who he had named after Sarah Lance when she died in Arrow Season 3. So he destroyed the Arrowverse timeline we knew, and that's why he's only at number 7. It's very rare for someone to actually destroy the world, because, you know, what else would there be? And at 6, Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Oh, look at that! I managed to squeeze 2 Flashpoint numbers into this list, hell yeah. In the animated movie The Flashpoint Paradox in the DC animated universe, the world is so much different to its CW counterpart. Mostly due to the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who ended up being the villains of this movie, thanks to them being former lovers while Aquaman was married to Mira, who Wonder Woman then killed when Mira tried to get revenge. But to be fair, she also wears Mira's crown, so it's not really like, oh, it was self-defense. However, this war resulted in the destruction of the planet at the literal moment Barry was able to get enough speed to go back into Speed Force. It was a suspenseful moment where Reverse Flash had just been killed by Batman, so Barry could have enough speed to run back and stop himself from saving his mother. I mean, he managed to get into the Speed Force before the world's destruction caught up with him, but the world was still destroyed, so it's good enough for me. Halfway through and in number 5, the Night King. Oh, what's that? A non-comic villain? Hell yeah it is. The Night King is in essence the big bad evil guy of Game of Thrones. Sure, there's the Game of Thrones that they're playing like chess combined with Risk, but come on, the Night King was the whole first half of the final season. The Night King was the master of the first White Walkers, having existed since the age of the first men. He was also the supreme leader of the Army of the Dead, because, you know, love that. The Night King was a first man who was captured by a tribe of children of the forest. Leaf, who was amongst the group, pressed a dragon glass dagger into his chest, causing his eyes to turn blue and turning him into the first of the White Walkers. However, the White Walkers soon turn on their creators and become the ruthless rulers of the land beyond the wall. Nobody believes that they exist, and those who see them rarely live to tell the tale. However, come season 8, spoiler alert for the rest of this number now, the worst of all seasons, the Night King finally makes his play on Westeros, and honestly, he should have absolutely won. If George R.R. Martin had really been writing these final scripts, the Night King would have won, and honestly I think that's probably the way that the books are gonna go when/if the final one's completed, because you know, it's George, he's gonna have the bad guy win. In this show, he gets killed by Arya Stark, which should absolutely not have happened, but hey, girl power. I still wanted to see him win though. He should have won. He would have won. And at 4, Thanos. While he may have only wiped out half the universe, Thanos is certainly a guy who destroyed the world. It's not in a literal sense, but wiping out half the population does kinda destroy the world in a more figurative sense. We see it even after 5 years later in the MCU. The world still misses half the population. Everyone lost someone, and that's the drive that causes the heroes to fight back and bring everyone back even after 5 years. I mean, the Avengers literally risked their lives traveling through the quantum realm and time in order to save everyone. Save the billions of people that Thanos destroyed, and honestly, that's why he's on this list. He destroyed the planet by destroying half of life. Sure, he was partially right and the Earth was starting to heal itself, but the people weren't, and I don't think that little bit of good that is coming from that really matters when everyone has lost someone they love. It's pretty damn insane. And not only that, but the world is also destroyed when everyone gets brought back. And while yes, the Avengers are the ones who did the whole resurrection thing, it's Thanos who made it required, who made everyone miserable, and even 5 years later, people still can't get through a date without crying. So, yeah, it's Thanos' fault. And at 3, Surtur. Surtur's purpose was to destroy the world, or I guess technically destroy Asgard, which is a world. Surtur was a significant figure in the prophecy of Ragnarok, as the one who would initiate the fall of Asgard. Seeking to prevent this prophecy though, Odin defeated Surtur thousands of years ago, like 500,000, taking the source of his power, the eternal flame, back to Asgard, and confining Surtur to his own realm, where he remained for over 5,000 years. After Odin went missing following the second Dark Elf conflict though, a weakened Surtur intended to finally start Ragnarok, only to be defeated and killed by Thor. Despite this, Thor realized that Ragnarok had to happen to stop Hela, so Loki resurrected him with the eternal flame and used him to defeat Hela and destroying Asgard. The fire demon obviously fulfilled his prophecy and destroyed Asgard along with Hela and himself in the process. At least this is realistic. At least Surtur knows that he's gonna die when he destroys the world. So I mean, like, he did actually destroy a world. Like, he destroyed one of the realms, so he fulfilled the prophecy. So hell yeah, I'm including him on this list. I love a man who's willing to go down with his cause. Penultimately, in at number 2, ABRAXAS. ABRAXAS is in essence the embodiment of destruction in the Marvel Universe. This guy wanted to destroy the multiverse and everyone in it just for funsies. When the Galactus of the Prime Reality died, ABRAXAS soon began to just cut through various alternate realities. He also killed off other versions of the Galactus because, you know, he could. ABRAXAS used the head of one of these Galactuses. Galactus? Galacti? I actually think Galacti sounds better. because Galactus sounds like cactus. Anyway, he used this head to home in on the main continuity's Earth and to plant a mole in the form of an alternate universe version of Harold Nova, who was dead in their reality. On Earth though, Abraxas attacked the Watcher and stole half of his signature medallion. Abraxas then taunted the Fantastic Four with the inevitability of his arrival, enticing them to search for the ultimate nullifier, which he was actually looking for. The clues to the location of which were scattered among realities. The Fantastic Four actually did find the ultimate nullifier, and then Abraxas showed up and stole it from them, because that's what he wanted all along. Using this nullifier, Abraxas was going to wipe out reality, and honestly, if it worked for plot and basically the godchild that is Franklin Richards, he would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for you meddling kids and your damn sister. Finally, in at number 1, the Anti-Monitor. The Anti-Monitor is probably the most successful villain on this list, and maybe ever when it comes to destroying the world. The Anti-Monitor ended up destroying all worlds pretty much. The purpose of the Crisis on Infinite Earths event that the Anti-Monitor was created for was to get rid of the DC multiverse in the comics, and squeeze everyone down to one world. And the purpose remained largely the same for the CW crossover of the same name, even if it was also to kill off Oliver Queen. But the Anti-Monitor, while not successful in his goal of replacing that universe with the Antimatter universe, did destroy basically infinite Earths. Like, if we think about it, there are infinite Earths in that multiverse, meaning that the Anti-Monitor somehow destroyed infinity, which is frickin' nuts. In the CW crossover, he literally destroyed every single Earth, including Earth 1. So this guy, or alien, or whatever they are, ended up actually destroying infinity. Like, what does that even mean? Can we even quantify that? It should be impossible. Technically, there also should be Earths that the Anti-Monitor can't touch, because if there's one Earth that the antimatter wave hits, technically, going off the many worlds theory, there should be another Earth where the antimatter wave doesn't touch it. So forget the Flashpoint paradox, try the Anti-Monitor paradox. There you go. In at 10, Damien Dark. Okay, so while not actually destroying the world, if Damien Dark from Arrow Season 4 didn't have to be defeated for the plot, he would have very well accomplished his goal. The goal being to get all of his loved ones and some savvy investors into a climate-controlled bubble underneath Star City, and live there while the world recovers from him launching every single nuke in the world at once using the Rubicon program from Argus. He had obtained the program and launched all the nukes, however Team Arrow, and more specifically Felicity and Curtis, were able to shut down most of them. The deaths from all over the world would have also given Damien immense power, basically making him immortal. His philosophy was that humanity cannot be saved, and that the world in fact required a reset in order to save it. And honestly, I think he's probably right. The world is in desperate need of saving, and I'm all for wiping out the entire human race. Oh, I'm okay, I swear.
Number 9, Molecule Man. Owen Reese started his days out as a small, puny, ridiculously looking laboratory technician whose life changed forever one day at work. Also, that's how the Watcher described him. I'm not being mean. He's breaking down his origins to the Fantastic Four, and he's low-key roasting the guy the entire time. It's pretty great. He was working for Acme Atomic Corp, but one day he got distracted and made a mistake while making adjustments to that atomic machine. He was distracted because he was monologuing about how much his life sucks. He was like, oh, I'm just a nobody wearing green pants at work, boo-hoo, no one knows my name. And then in the middle of his pity party, he gets blasted with energy, but somehow he survives. His boss of 12 years calls him in the office and he's like, hey, I heard about your accident, Mr. whatever your name is. We can't have that happen here. You're fired. Which, first of all, as far as lawsuits go, could you imagine? But Owen doesn't pack up and leave. No, instead, he pulls out a wand that can control his powers and he turns Boss Man into a snow cone. He can now control every molecule in the universe, and like Reed Richards says, if a man can control molecules, he can control anything. Guy's really brilliant with that groundbreaking assessment. Thanks, Reed. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It's a lot of dark, tragic stuff going on here, so let's brighten the mood a little bit by doing a little hitting that button. Thanks so much, you guys are the best. Back to this list. Number 8, Mad Jim Jaspers. Old Jimmy J. Okay, he made his first appearance in Daredevil's number 7 back in 1983. He was created by Alan Davis and Alan Moore, and when he first hit the pages, he was a British politician serving as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He was serving as a member of Parliament for Haslab West, and he wasn't a fan of superheroes either. He wanted to keep Britain safe, and superheroes crashing through buildings and punching each other in the back, no thanks. Sounds like the opposite of safety. They're old school, I get it. But he also wasn't alone. Many others agreed with him, and in turn, he won a general election. Only 2 issues after he's introduced, we find out he's a mutant with reality warping powers, who of course is also insane. He was just taking out other heroes so that he could rule secretly. Classic little twisty twist. He created and used this machine called the Fury, which hunted down superhumans. Meanwhile, he would be off committing crimes with his Alice in Wonderland themed gang. I know Disney loves crossovers, but I think this would be a little too weird. Number 7. Mephisto. In a list of villains too powerful for the MCU, clearly Mephisto is on that list. We thought he was going to be the one pulling the strings in WandaVision, but as the catchy theme song revealed, it was Agatha Harkness all along. Mephisto made his first full appearance in Silver Surfer issue 3, and he's been making deals with everybody since. Like when Spider-Man revealed his identity in the Civil War storyline, that led to a bullet striking Aunt May, so he offers Peter a deal while Aunt May is dying in the hospital. The world will forget Peter Parker is truly Spider-Man, but in turn Mephisto gets his marriage. It's kind of like Shrek 4, but way more fun. And this movie's probably gonna make way more money than Shrek 4. I mean, maybe, hopefully, I hope. You don't even need to be a superhero to have an eventful night with Mephisto either. Like in Journey into Mystery issue 627, he would show up to a random pub and he tells the bartender a story, and if you listen to his tale, he'll give you a nice fat tip. But if you slip up, things can get pretty ugly. Next time you get that really annoying regular at your bar, just think, it could literally be the devil and be a lot worse. Consider yourself lucky. Number 6. Vulcan. The younger brother of both Cyclops and Havoc, Gabriel Summers made his first appearance in X-Men Deadly Genesis. Before Catherine Summers even had a chance to give birth to the 3rd child, he was transferred into an incubation accelerator, so he grew up real quick. After this, he was sent to Earth to work for Eric the Red, but luckily he didn't stick around to let that happen too long. He changed his name quickly from Gabriel to Kid Vulcan, which sounds way cooler already, but was also inspired by Roman mythology. I guess the other names already belong to DC characters. But Xavier eventually met him, and because of his mental powers, he knew that this boy was a relative to the Summers family. Vulcan had forgotten about his history at this point as well, but he suited up with Petra, Darwin, and Sway, and together they rescued the original X-Men. It wasn't easy though. Cyclops thought Vulcan had died when the island decided to fight back. Vulcan is an Omega level mutant, and he's also insane. What a jazzy combo. Vulcan can manipulate, absorb, and control energy. This includes Cyclops' optic blasts or even Adam Warlock's energy. And of course, interstellar flight makes those cosmic commutes nice and smooth. Number 5. Onslaught. Making his first debut in X-Men issue 15, Onslaught was a sentient psionic entity created from the minds of Charles Xavier and Magneto. So when the X-Men were fighting the Acolytes, Wolverine hit Magneto, and then in turn Magneto ripped the adamantium from his bones, which I've mentioned on other lists before because that's one of the more painful encounters I've ever seen in comic books. His healing factor then had to work overtime, and Xavier at this point decided it would be the right move to just shut Magneto's mind down, so then he made him catatonic. But during this exact moment, all of Magneto's lust for hate and violence leaked into Charles' subconscious, creating this new personality, Onslaught. Onslaught is quite lucky, because now he gets to tap into the psychic resources of the astral plane where he can manipulate matter and energy. I mean, let's get X-Men into the MCU first, and then we'll start talking about evil mashups and swaps. Number 4. Mojo. Making his first debut in Longshot issue 3, Mojo is known for using Earth as forms of TV entertainment for the universe. Just like the team over here at Top 10 Nerd, the more views he gets for this interdimensional TV show, the more powerful he gets as well. So if you didn't hit that like button, now you really have to. So in the 1992 issue titled Mojo's Media Madness, he had this wild storyline where Mojo gets Rogue, Cyclops, Beast, and Wolverine, and they all think that they're characters from The Wizard of Oz. It sounds fun, but for the MCU this would be way too stupid, dare I say. The comic is crazy enough. I mean, we see his madness really unfold in X-Men issue 10. Mojo is a unique villain. He's part of a race called the Spineless Beings, and they're from a planet named after him called Mojo World inside of a pocket dimension called Mojoverse. It's just all about him, eh? Wow. So this race of spineless beings were also slowly going crazy over time because TV signals from other space-time continuums like ours were scattered into their timelines. He's a powerful sorcerer. We're not exactly sure just how far his magic can go. We'll stick to watching these guys on our TV rather than having them sucked into a interdimensional Netflix, you know? That sounds better. Number 3. Apocalypse. Making his first steps in Marvel graphic novel issue 17 and then making his first full appearance in X Factor issue 5, Apocalypse was born nearly 5,000 years ago at the edge of the Valley of the Kings in ancient Egypt. He was abandoned by his tribe because of the fact that he looked different. He had the Blue Man Group avatar vibe going on, so they left the child. How mean. Later on, he was raised by the nomads with the idea that only the strong survive. So already such a tragic childhood. Now in the desert, along came Baal of the Crimson Sands, leader of the Sandstormers, and he saw this kid crying and he also saw potential, because clearly he was different. So he named him An-Sabinur, which translates to morning light. He grew up becoming the most feared in the land, and eventually Baal led him to Ramatut's time ship in an underground tomb. Now Baal didn't survive this cave expedition, but Nur was now determined to be anything but an abused worker. Now he wanted revenge on Ramatut, the pharaoh ruler. And after being thrown into a pit of snakes, Nur grew in size and strength, easily defeating all the guards before finally declaring himself Apocalypse. We had this guy already in the Fox verse, but it didn't feel too great. I think we should let that wound heal a bit before bringing him into the MCU with the X-Men. Maybe like 8 years, then we'll talk. Number 2, M.O.D.O.K. Making its first appearance in Tales of Suspense issue 93, M.O.D.O.K was created by Dr. George Tarleton. He had worked with the team recently to create the Cosmic Cube, but the scientist supreme, Lyle Getz, figured the next logical step was figuring out a way to understand the powers inside said cube. We see this happen a little bit in the MCU. So enter Project M.O.D.O.K, yes, spelled with a C at the end instead of a K. That's important, you gotta remember that. M.O.D.O.K stood for Mental Organism Designed Only for Computing. It sounds like a high-tech series, sounds perfect. What a great way to analyze and probe this cosmic cube. So they grabbed that scientist George that I mentioned and altered him into this big-headed supercomputer. That's when things start to go south, obviously. With a brain too big for his body, they had to give him a hover chair, which is referred to as the Doomsday Chair. Already this is downhill. This scientist did not know that with great power comes great responsibility, so it wasn't long before M.O.D.O.K overtook his masters, changed that last letter from a C to a K, making his new, more suitable name for the list, M.O.D.O.K, Mental Organism Designed Only for Killing. He's the big bad in the new Avengers game that's not too good, but it's still worth a play, and yes, he's as crazy as it sounds. And finally, number 1, Galactus. Wielder of the power cosmic, this one has to eat planets in order to survive. Yummy. We saw him in Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Well, I mean, we saw a cloud that sort of looked like him, I guess. Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds. Let's talk about him. The Great Destroyer made his first appearance in Fantastic Four issue 48. He's the sole survivor of the 6th incarnation of the multiverse. But originally he was a humanoid named Galan, born on a previous version of Earth called Planet Ta. It was a paradise whose civilization was much more advanced than any other in the universe at the time, which sounds quite lovely. But when the cosmos were soon ending the embodiment of the 6th infinity, the sentience of the multiverse approached Galan and merged with him. So now Galactus resides in the 7th iteration of his universe, which is home to our Earth 616. He's extremely powerful. He once ate all the Infinity Stones, so maybe we'll just keep them hidden in Casey's office desk for now, just to be safe.